one or two people still popping in.
Be nice to see people. Hi, Marilena.
Yay.
Hi, Robin. Hi, Claire.
Hello.
Hello.
No problem, Jay. And we'll just give it another minute before we start. And so I was just with Robin as everyone was getting into the waiting room, and we had a little laugh because last time we started with what's his favourite part of the seven-eyed model. So I said, today we can start with what's your least favourite? Although maybe it is a good question. So welcome everyone. Some people are still arriving. Really appreciate your time today. I know a lot of you put comments in our community group saying what a great session it was last time. Really appreciate you being here again, Robin, and sharing your wisdom, your deep thinking, and also sometimes provocation. Is that the right word?
It's the right word.
And I was grabbed some of the books that I've got, and one of the papers you sent that we shared with everyone last time. And I was thinking of some of the topics that I've sort of honed in on that you've talked about or written about. So definitely, you know, one of them, othering and forgiveness, and using self in supervision, spirituality. And just to start things rolling, because we want to definitely include the audience in asking questions today as well. When we talk about feelings, what ways do you consciously tap into your feelings when you're supervising?
So it's happening now. So even as we're in conversation, there's a part of me that just goes inside when somebody speaks to me, and I kind of notice what's happening. So I notice a slight feeling of discomfort, and really have to be very alert, but a slight feeling of panic. Oh, that wasn't what I was expecting. So I'm registering all these things before I reply to, well, now I'm replying to you, but so it's almost like a habit to register, to scan myself before I almost like speak. And you could say that stops spontaneity. And on one level it does, but on another level, it gives me a lot more information when I'm in supervision. I'm not just I'm really tuning in to what might be happening in the supervisee and myself, and possibly the coachee or client or whoever I'm working with. So my first response is to go within. And I notice a slight discomfort at your question. So have I answered your question by?
Absolutely, yeah. I'm thinking of the sort of slowing down before we answer as well. And then another thing in terms of triggers, what way do you work with triggers in the moment?
Whose triggers? Mine, the supervisees? Whose triggers?
So actually, I was thinking yours, but of course it encompasses so much, that question, doesn't it, if it's just left open?
Okay, so mine. What? So I'm going to push it back and say, what's prompting you to ask that question?
I think that it's for me, a really important part of supervision.
Mm.
The difference, curious on your thoughts on this, the difference between self-managing when so many times that is needed and self-managing as opposed to openly sharing with the person we're supervising or the group that there's a trigger or I'm noticing something in me.
Mm. Gosh. Well, first of all, I do get triggered. I think the idea of us not getting triggered creates a false expectation on ourselves. We get triggered. It's what we do with the trigger that's the important bit.
Mm.
To expect not to be triggered is, well, I think you're putting yourself under too much pressure. We will get triggered. It depends on who I'm with and the relationship.
Mm.
If the relationship's good, I can say I can be quite open and say, actually, I found myself quite irritated right now, or can we look at what that could mean? And that doesn't have to be a trigger. It could be just information.
Mm.
There's irritation in the field. But if it was a trigger, I would wait a moment and think and do some internal supervision first. But how do you know what's a trigger and what how do you know anything? Yeah, I'm finding myself quite at the moment, almost like being pushed into my head to answer you.
Mm.
I wonder why. I'm kind of racking my brains as opposed to enjoying being present with you. That's why I asked you, why did you ask?
Mm. Mm.
Now
One,
you go. Yeah.
one thing that I really love whenever I've heard you speak or I've attended your program recently as well is the fact that I've never seen you jump to answering as a reflex.
Gosh. Well, I believe you, and I didn't know that I didn't that was happening. It's so automatic to go within that it probably you don't know there's a process. Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of internal work that happens. I guess what I'm asking for, if I just think about what we're doing here together, I guess I'm saying that the more you know yourself, the less likely you are to be reactive, which is a pretty obvious thing to say. But if I can just take us somewhere, we did the second supervision for a spiritual practice cohort. And I don't know if I said this last time, we looked at how we totally supervised from our autobiographies. I don't know if I mentioned that last time, but what we did was a very interesting exercise. We got people to delve into their autobiographies, how they came to be supervising some of their early childhood, some of their core beliefs. We did some personal work, and then we did what was called a tag supervision, where there's two chairs, somebody's supervisee, and then the supervisor rotates. So the supervisor makes an intervention, or two or three interventions, then goes and another one comes and takes their place. And what we saw was that all the interventions from the supervisors, the different supervisors, we could really see they came from their autobiographies.
Mm.
I wish I could remember. My memory isn't so good these days, but we were riveted. Oh, that's why she's asking that question. It relates to something, and there were good questions, but somebody else wouldn't have asked that question, or somebody else wouldn't have made that intervention.
Mm.
And so I really believe, I think this is connecting to what you're saying, is that we're coming from our autobiographies.
Mm.
And so the more you know yourself, the less likely you're going to get triggered.
Mm.
And if you are triggered, that would be interesting in itself. Oh, I'm really triggered. How can I use that? Either I share it or I slow myself down. But even the way I supervise comes from my autobiography.
Mm.
And I remember Peter Hawkins, with whom I've collaborated now for nearly 50 years. We met running a therapeutic community for people coming out of psychiatric hospital together. Anyway, I came round to his house, and his wife said, he's asked his wife, is it raining? His wife said, ask Robin, he's just come in. And Peter snorted, Robin wouldn't know, he'd only know if it was raining inside him. And the whole idea behind that is that being internal is just so automatic for me.
Mm.
So I guess I appeal to people for whom either that is natural or who want to be like that.
Mm.
If you're very results geared, I'm probably not the best person.
Mm.
I don't know, maybe I am, I have no idea, but I'm certainly very internal.
Mm. And you talk a lot about spirituality and supervision, and also there was somewhere where I can't remember the exact words, but something like supervision is a practice for living.
Hmm.
We share more about this really beautiful, holistic, supervision is for everyone.
Well, you asked two different questions,
Which would you like to answer?
which ask me one of them and I'll answer it.
Hmm. Supervision is practice for living. What's that about?
Right. Okay. The way I supervise is the way I'd like to live my life. Sort of reflecting in collaboration, being on the same side, looking at possibilities, not jumping to conclusions, not being reactive. If I could be like that in my life, I would be very happy. And so supervision gives me this space where I can be how I want to be, where we can experiment together because it's a kind of collaboration. So, yeah, I love the space. Um, we have an exercise that I would have done last time. I'm pretty sure I haven't seen the recording about four lenses, and that somebody we ask a volunteer, for those that weren't here last time, we ask somebody to volunteer and share a supervision case. The rest of us listen through one of four lenses: fear, judgment, curiosity, or love.
Mm.
And we notice what happens in our bodies and how we listen. And then halfway through, we change our lens and again notice. And so those four lenses aren't just about supervision. Actually, you can do them walking down the street. That's what I mean. It's for life. I can walk down the street in fear or in curiosity or judgment, and I can really notice how I am, and that affects how I relate to the outside world, and it's just very different. I've got examples where if I hadn't been doing this work, I would have been in a mess, like when somebody came onto the tube and was very aggressive, and I noticed myself tensing up. And then I said, well, why don't I just shift my focus?
Mm.
I sort of like be curious about who he is and not be reactive. And as I did that, he calmed down. So that's what I mean, that the four lenses was devised for supervision, but it applies to our lives. Has that answered your question?
It has. Would you like to answer the other one about the real holistic approach supervisions for everyone?
Well, that basically, we spend as much time in our work as almost like anything else, probably even sometimes more than with our families. And so if our work isn't nourishing, then that seems a waste. Not only are we not useful, whatever useful means, but we're actually not really happy in ourselves and therefore not giving our best. And I see supervision as a way of helping us to do our best, to reduce burnout. I would have burnt out without supervision. I'm very clear about that. I was in a high stress job with Peter and Joan, residential social worker with ex-psychiatric patients. And without fail, Friday at 2 o'clock, I had an hour and a quarter supervision so I could enjoy the weekend. So I wasn't carrying stuff around with me. And it was every week for an hour and a quarter, and that space was sacrosanct. And I'm quite clear that, so when I left in 1979, I made it a mission to really try and spread supervision so that as many people as possible could have it. So we've worked with nurses, teachers, probation officers, all sorts of so-called helping professions. And it's very gratifying to see people actually go from a place of stress to really relaxing more and feeling more fulfilled. So I think everyone should have it. Not a should as a must, but a kind of, it should be there as a resource. And it benefits everyone. Benefits the workforce, the organization, because what you're getting is better quality work and less burnout.
Something else I notice in your work is a focus on presencing as opposed to fixing and solutions and so forth. So I'm curious about that, but also sometimes in competency frameworks, there's a bit where we must integrate this into our future practice. Where are you with that? That was a massive question.
I just noticed a kind of glaze go over me. I think a lot of the work can be driven by fear. And or prove your good competencies and what I believe supervision is to help the supervisee to be more present in their work. And then what happens when you're more present, you draw on yourself as a resource as opposed to kind of trying to work out what to do. It's very difficult to explain, but what I'm trying to do is to get people to be so present that what needs to happen can happen through them, as opposed to them trying to work out what to do. I don't know if this is making any sense, but it might be quite nice to hear from people. I would like to hear from people.
Anyone, any thoughts so far, or?
Thank you, Janet.
Questions? Benita.
Gotta make sure I have all my mics on. I do. So that reminds me of something I learned a long, long time ago that I hope I practice as often as I can, which is an inside answer and an outside answer. We're always looking for that outside answer. It's the system's fault, or it's somebody else's fault, or it was the way I was brought up, or something that's outside. But if I really want a solution, I look inside, what's going on inside me. So I think, Rob, when you're talking about, I translate that into inside and outside answer.
I like that. Yep.
Benita. Lisa.
I was thinking how what you said very much related to a lot of the studies in happiness and how the lens you take to something changes your whole perspective. And I've been reading a lot of studies on happiness because I've been following Tal Ben-Shir. in some of his work. And it's interesting as you were talking about the four lenses of fear, judgment, curiosity, and love. I'm not sure he has the same relation of putting those lenses on, but talking about your approach to life and how you see things and how you choose to engage. So it was kind of fascinating, the correlation, and I'm just playing with it in my mind and thinking about, as coaches, as supervisors, how do we come to the table, and does that lens potentially affect how we supervise? That's what I was thinking.
I'm going to turn that round and say, how can it not?
Exactly. I was thinking about that.
I mean, how can it not? I don't know whether, I mean, I would have given this again, this example, but it's quite stunning. When we've got people to practice in threes, and the supervisor didn't say anything, but started with one lens and changed to another halfway through, like I was describing. The person started very confidently and then started stuttering. And what had happened was the supervisor, without words, had changed their lens from love to judgment. And the person picked it up, and from just presenting naturally, started to stutter and feel very unsure of themselves. So it's so simple. Decide what lens you want to go in with, and then notice if you've changed from it. So as I look at you now, Lisa, I can look at you in curiosity and my body goes forward. I can look at you in judgment and my body automatically just without thinking, just moves back a bit. I can look at you with love, and then I kind of feel, oh, yes, I sort of soften inside myself. And I look at you with fear. I could just widen my eyes and go, oh, what's she thinking? So moment to moment, those are the four. Those, of course, there are other lenses, but moment to moment, just when you're talking with somebody, just be curious. How are you relating to them? And is that what you want to do? I'm not making fear and judgment wrong. I'm just saying, does it serve you?
Right. Well, I would think fear and judgment serves us at different times,
Mm.
depending on what we're working in. Maybe not in supervision, but there are times when we fear something, we do need to, I'll say, biologically react.
Yes, and that's interesting too, Lisa, because what happens is in the moment we react, and then what happens is we tell a story. So, you know, the red car comes and nearly runs me over. I jump out of the way. I then tell a story of people who drive red cars must be very aggressive. And it's the story that's the problem. Do you see how we create stories out of events? And then we get attached to the stories, and then I have to kind of justify my story. And so it goes on. So fear in the short term, of course, has a survival level. But when we build stories around the reaction, we no longer live in the present. Those are my thoughts.
Sarah.
Thank you. Yeah, I think I just wanted to check that I had understood what you were saying before, Robin, because it gives me a sense of some things that happen when I'm in sessions of supervision. So I get this sense of, the supervisee will be talking about their situation, and it's almost as if I feel like they kind of enter me in some way. It sounds a bit strange, but
No, it's not strange at all.
right, okay. It's like they enter me, something kind of happens. I guess it's like I become a vessel. Their stuff comes into me, interacts with my stuff, and then comes out as something else that they can think about for themselves. Is that the kind of thing that you meant with what you were saying before, or something different?
It's very much what I'm saying as a general rule. I work with something, I don't know if you're familiar or anyone else is familiar with the concept of projective identification. Have you heard of it?
I think you mentioned it the last time.
Yeah, basically what I cannot manage in myself, it's a pre-verbal form of communication because the baby has no words. So it has to communicate its feelings and its distress to the caregiver, the mother or whoever. Yeah. And then the person, so the client or the coachee does it to the supervisee, and then the supervisee does it to the supervisor. So we're really on one level, we're just talking with words. On another level, which is why I think online is quite tricky in some ways, because you can't pick it up, that projective identification, I don't think to the same extent. I don't know. But that's so people do put things into each other. Of course, there has to be there has to be receptivity in me for it to land. So I can't say it's all their stuff because I've taken it in. But that relates to the whole idea of just going within and what is the impact you're having on me? Do you see? So we talk, and what impact do you have on me?
Mm-hmm.
Then from the impact you have on me, I can pick up a lot of clues about the impact your coachee might be having on you or the organization might be having on you. So once you're familiar with going within and projective identification, there's huge amounts of material that we can get that we normally wouldn't have access to if we're trying consciously to solve a problem.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
then what happens, and I would have said this last time, is that it's not that we don't go towards looking at problems and solutions, but you go with a much wider lens because you've done the inner work first.
Yeah. Thank you.
Pleasure. So what I'm feeling, Claire, what I'm noticing is more than half the people I don't see, and not a lot of, so I'm not feeling as connected as I'd like to. So I don't know. I would like more contact. Either chat or face or questions or something. I want more dialogue.
Benita.
So I just wanted to share what just happened for me, Robin. Thank you. And Sarah, the lady who spoke before, and the lady who spoke before her, Lisa. So and Robin, I sent you a copy of this article that I just got from Singularity about $4 trillion being invested in AI and with very little returns yet at this point in time. And as you know, I really sit on the fence with this whole AI field, I'll call it. And so when I read this article, I automatically went into fear. Oh my God, they're investing $4 trillion. And then I automatically went into judgment of myself. Oh, you're just being an old lady. You're too old to be looking at AI. And then now I've switched it to curiosity, and I haven't got an answer on that yet. But I'm thinking, well, what if I wasn't just an old lady? What's there besides fear and judgment? So I'm going to look at it now with curiosity. So thanks.
Oh, I did nothing. You made the decision to change your lens.
Yeah.
And you lose nothing by it.
No.
Whereas when we're in fear, we're defending something, defending ourselves from some, I don't know. But yeah, it's a good lens to have generally, I think. Thanks, Joe.
And Robin Waffer's written in the chat, so how can we create a wider lens?
Well, I suggest that when you're in fear and judgment, your lens is very narrow. And we could almost like repeat the exercise we did last time, because you could listen to me. Okay, try it out now. For the next minute, as I talk, I don't know what I'm going to say yet, listen to me with judgment. And then after maybe a minute or so, move to either curiosity and love, and notice what happens to how you listen to me, what happens in your body. So just try it. Listen to me with judgment. Notice what happens to you. I'm going to keep talking. I have no idea what I'm going to be saying, but after about a minute or perhaps a little less, whatever, switch your lens and notice what happens. It's still me chuntering away, but you will notice, be curious about what happens inside you. So I'll just have to keep talking, or Claire, you can ask me a question or something. But at some level, I'm inviting people to switch their lens from judgment to curiosity or love, and see what happens inside them. Hmm. We can do it also in silence. I don't have to be speaking. So this is a partial answer to your question of create a wider lens by just going in and reducing the amount of fear and judgment, which automatically restricts your vision. Okay, so I've talked now. What did you notice inside yourself as you were in judgment of me?
Benita.
Sorry, did you call on me?
Oh, your hand was still up.
Oh, was it? Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Joe.
Oh,
Hello, Robin.
Hi.
Lovely to see you again.
Thank you. You too.
I noticed tension
Mm.
when I was in judgment, my jaw particularly, and I was in my head.
Mm.
And I didn't like it.
Sure.
And then I shifted back to curiosity where I was before.
Yes.
Which I found expansive. I felt
Yes.
my shoulders
Sure.
shifting outwards. So yeah, it was really good to really feel those body
Mm.
movements in me.
Yes. Yeah.
Mm.
Yes. And of course, if I was just one-on-one with you, I'd have picked that up very quickly.
Of course you would.
Mm. Yeah. Good. Okay, who was next? Elaine.
Hello, very pleased to meet you.
Hi.
My first thought was, who am I to judge? Who am I to judge this person? So the thoughts were of not being adequate, not being able to judge, and thinking if I was judging, it would be a positive judgment. And can you judge positively? And tension here in the shoulders, around the neck, and the beginning of a slight headache, I'd say. So if we can switch to love straight away, that would suit me better.
Yes, it would suit us all, but we can't do a bypass. Sometimes but you were in judgment of yourself.
Mm.
And it may be, if we look at supervision as autobiography, or the way we work as autobiography, which I think is very, very powerful, it may be, this is just complete guesswork, Elaine, okay? Allow me to do that. It may be that you learnt in your family that we mustn't judge others. It's not, we shouldn't do it. And so there's a habit formed of judging yourself rather than judging another. And if that's true, I'm not saying, I have no idea. What that does is when you judge yourself, you're out of connection with me.
Mm-hmm.
So I think judgment puts us all out of connection, whether it's of self or of other.
Yeah, very
I just
interesting.
invite you to think about that as a possibility.
Yeah.
We did a
Yeah.
fascinating exercise, which I might try with you in a second. Yeah, I'll come back to that, Elaine, but thanks.
Okay.
So Wafa.
Yeah, thank you for your answer. Actually, when you said judgment and fears, I could relate that to expectations, honestly.
Sure.
And this is really a big question in my life right now, because I noticed that a lot of what we are doing is based on others' expectations, and the others' expectations that we adapt to be our expectations. So this is what came to my mind, but also I feel speechless. Like I felt that I cannot say anything when you said about judgment and fear. And honestly, the way you speak, I attended last time, and this time I feel the flow of the way you are speaking, and I'm trying not to miss any word there because
Oh,
it makes sense for me. But I
mm.
was at this point kind of speechless. Oh, okay. No, I don't want to do any judgments.
Oh. Wafa, and I'm saying to you as to everybody, if it makes sense to you, it must already be inside you. I think this is quite important to recognize that you see, if it wasn't inside you, it wouldn't make sense. So what happens is that we project onto the other person, but actually it's there already. And I think an effective teacher helps people to recognize that it's there already, and I'm just waking it up or helping you to recognize it. It's not me, it's actually you. Otherwise, you just say, I don't understand a word of what he's saying, or that's nonsense. So I want to thank you for the whatever you've given me, and I'd like to lovingly hand it back.
Leela.
I'm going to say something very different, and somewhere it's just stuck with me, Robin, if I may share.
Of course.
Last session was mesmerizing, and I shared that enough time on the group that we have. Dr. Clare is aware of this. And one of the reason is because, Robin, your voice resonates with Dr. Deepak Chopra.
Oh,
And there is something about the voice when I hear it's musical. And that's exactly what I was feeling today. And probably that's the reason my camera was off. And I was just enjoying, even now. I don't know if my fellow participants are noticing I'm, constantly smiling because there's so much of joy in my heart right now when I hear you. I just want to remain in that moment and close my eyes and feel it.
oh,
It's almost like whistling. That's
yeah.
the feeling I get.
And that joy is in you.
And that's exactly what Dr. Chopra also says. What we tend to reflect is a part of us.
Of course. Yes. So it's lovely that we're in the joyful connection. And I think what we do is the world is like a mirror. That joy, you see, even as you spoke, it was happening inside me. So we mirror each other. And again, back to supervision, why I love it so much is that we have an opportunity to talk about it together.
Absolutely.
Mm.
Thank you.
No, thank you. I can't look at all the comments as well at the same time.
Should I read a few out, Robin, and then you can do the other activity you mentioned?
Yeah.
So we've got Janet shared that the bit where you said already inside you, she totally gets that. Lisa mentions so peaceful, great reflections, truly helps. Benita's first reaction, why would I do that on purpose, the judging? And then she was laughing at herself after that.
Yeah. Well, you see, it's a paradox. If you decide to do it, you're already one step removed because you made a decision to do it. So there's the judging and then the person who makes the decision to judge. So you're already slightly removed from it. The judgments that actually create the most difficulty are the ones that are done without thinking. that you actually believe are true. I don't know if I said this last time again, but I thought the greatest human addiction is the need to be right. And then what happens is when we judge, we think, I know best. So when you consciously judge, it's quite different from a reflex back to the when we're triggered kind of judgment. And that kind of reflex judgment usually comes with I know I'm right. This is what I think, and I know I'm right. I like Mohammed's question. What kind of barriers that prevent us from knowing ourselves, and whether they are internal or external barriers, and how can we overcome these barriers? I'm writing my memoir at the moment, and I'm quite shocked at some of the things I've done. I mean, I haven't done anything kind of absolutely terrible, but I've done enough that I'm not proud of. And what I realized, and I think this is such an interesting thing about the human condition, which is why I'm trying to answer your question, Mohammed, is that we're so aware of, we're in survival mode so much of the time that we are actually very aware of the impact the world has on us. But we don't realize we have an impact on the world because we've got a blind spot around that. So for example, I've worked a lot with forgiveness, and one of the questions I might ask is, how many people have felt betrayed in their lives? And every hand goes up. How many people have betrayed? Only half the hands go up. But of course we've all betrayed, but we're less conscious of that because we're much more aware of the impact of somebody betraying us than actually seeing ourselves as a betrayer. So we have a real blind spot about the impact that we have on others. So that's one of the barriers that stops us. It's quite sobering to realize that all the things that I've ever accused anybody of, I have done myself. That's the blind spot. So the Byron Katie work, and I don't know if I mentioned the teacher Byron Katie, put her in the chat, but is basically asking you to put your judgments on paper, and then she very skillfully helps you to realize that it's about you, not the other person. So the blind spot is the willingness, no, not the blind spot, but the way to overcome the blind spot is to realize that everything you've said about anybody is true of you. Anything. And you can say, I've never murdered, I've never raped, I've never stolen, and whatever. But what you have done in your minds is you've written people off. So if we take thought and not so much the physical action, in our minds, we have actually done some pretty awful things. In my mind, I've actually had some awful thoughts. So the block is to actually recognize that we are capable in our minds of very negative thoughts. And those thoughts actually have an impact on people. But as I say, I'm so busy focusing on what the world's done to me, poor innocent little Robin, that I actually don't see that I've had quite an impact on quite a few people that hasn't always been good. Writing that memoir has been really sobering. It's actually given me the space to look at my impact on the world. And I thought I was pretty self-aware, and I've still got lots of blind spots. And one of Byron Katie's, the shadow, Janet, one of Byron Katie's sayings, which I love, is if you want to know the truth, get an enemy. Because the enemy will tell us things that our friends won't. So I think it's a great question, and I could spend the whole time on this, that we really don't want to know ourselves, a mixture of pride. I could never be like that. The need to be right and self-righteous, shame. Oh my goodness, if I look at what I've done, I can't face it. Better say it's their fault, or I haven't done it, or so there's all sorts of blocks. I think your question could be a whole session in itself, Mohammed.
And Robin Vin had a question as well. He says, not only judgment, assessment may not serve us as well. What are your thoughts on that?
Where's this question?
So that's in the chat, it's about fifth up from Vin.
Ah, Vin, got it.
I wonder, is assessment diagnosing as well?
I'm very wary of assessment. Let me start with, first of all, I hated it at school and I cheated whenever I could. It was my way of saying, I'm not going to be part of this crazy system. So I would copy people's homework and do anything but I just instinctively hated it. And what I think assessment does, when I think about my exams, I forgot all the stuff I'd learned virtually the day after. And what assessment we Joan and I, my wife and I, have been teaching supervision for over 40 years, nearly 50. And we say that everybody who comes on our courses, we don't fail anyone. And that could sound like, oh, well, anything goes. Oh, just, don't. But actually, what that does is it gives us a lot of permission to really push people, because they're more likely to show up knowing that we're not going to fail them. So in fact, we are very demanding. Assessment is supposed to be rigorous. Actually, I think it's more rigorous to say, I trust you, give me your best. I don't want anything other than your best. You'll know what it is. I'm not going to sit in judgment of you, but only your best will do. And if you can't give your best, blame us. We've not created the conditions to enable that to happen. Very different way of looking at things. I think assessment is has an element of also, I'm not saying there shouldn't be assessment, by the way. I'm only giving you an alternative. It can be a both and. I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. But in the work we're doing, I think, which is so based on relationship, I want to do things that will promote relationship, and I'm not sure assessment does. Just thoughts. The main thing is not to listen to what I'm saying, although, you're coming on for the hour to do that, but really dig deep and find your own truths. Really kind of question everything. Everything. You're a coach. Why? So the exercise I was going to do, Claire, was I'd like people to finish this sentence. Will you write down the answer? Give you the sentence. I can damage people by. And finish the sentence. A few more. By being rude, just being me, silence, not listening, ignoring them. Okay, holding back. Thank you, Janet. What this sentence is a very interesting one, is that we think we can damage people in the way that we might have been damaged in our childhoods. So if you've had your parents gossiping, Benita, or you weren't given a lot of attention, in the way you think you were damaged, you think you could damage other people. So with one sentence, I get right to the heart of a lot of people's autobiographies. And then we find out that if I've got a script of I can damage people by ignoring them, what I do is to make sure I really remember you. So we compensate. Because I had 3 ignoring them, 4 ignores. Vin, yours is interesting, the sloppy choice of words. Maybe that's how you felt people weren't careful enough with their words towards you. I don't know, but can you see my thinking? I mean, this is a very, I mean, I do much more with this exercise, but what I'm trying to say is that wherever we cannot not come from our autobiographies. And I'm much more interested in people going within and looking at how our autobiographies affect the work than I am in learning about their competencies. There's nothing wrong with learning about competencies, but actually the way we have the same competency, the way Robin expresses it and the way Clare expresses it might be quite different. And the impact will be different. And I think there's a reluctance, which is why I'm still with Mohammed's question about going within and why we don't. So Vin, you hit the nail. Thank you. Yeah. Maybe in your not being there when they need us. So Mohammed, my guess is that your parents might not have been there when you needed them. So just before we finish, I want to communicate to you that I want you to do this work for the love of it. Not to pass an exam or to get your ICF master coach accreditation or whatever it might be, but actually this inquiry is a way of life. And you do it it will impact your practice for sure. But if you do it to get a result, we're back to that again. If you do it to get a result, you're actually, it's quite different from doing this. I couldn't not do this work. It's in my being. And if this inquiry work is in your being, you won't need me, you'll just do it. And if it's not, then it's not. It's not everyone's cup of tea, but it does create strong connection with people. And it gives me, as a supervisor, a lot of permission, because I've done the internal work and know that what I'm capable of in my mind, if not actually in action, I can challenge people knowing that I'm not different from them. So I can say to people, you're a fraud. And they will laugh. Or you're insane. And they will laugh. They don't kind of go, what do you mean? How can you say that to me? We're all insane. The maddest people are the ones that don't know it. But yeah, so the more you know yourself, the more permission you have to reach across and find that part in the other person. Okay, we've got 5 minutes for any more comments or questions.
I was just thinking, you say such gems, these quotes. So I'm looking forward to your autobiography to just see some of those in there in context of your stories.
Yeah, thank you.
So Mohammed's written there, does the level of damaging vary within us based on how far or how near the people are to us and the reflection on our lives?
I don't think I want to answer that one for the moment,
Mm.
Mohammed. I just think it takes me up into my head. I don't think, I think it's a good question, but I don't want to right now answer it.
And Janet says, if we do it for a result, is it likely to be more superficial,
Yes.
like an exam?
Yes, I think so.
Mm. And Sandra shared, thank you for modeling the work by sitting in the not knowing. It's beautiful.
Yeah, thank you, Sandra. To think that we know is crazy. To really think that we know is just how much. I suppose I'm older than most people, or probably everyone here, and I kind of get the feeling I know less and less rather than more and more. There is a book that I'd like to recommend, and it's called Supervision of Spiritual Practice, and that was written by our students, and I loved it because they really grappled with really important existential questions. And I like it so much that it was written mostly by the students. Thanks, Claire.
There's a wacky chapter in there as well.
Yes, at least one.
Yeah. Wafa.
Yeah, I have a question actually about are we the result of our past? If this is the fact, like we are living our life based on our like past stories, what's our role then in our life?
Good question. The role is to be aware of how the past is impacting so we can change it. If we're not aware of it, it's more difficult to change. So I think yes, I think we are to a large degree run by our past, but we don't have to be. And I think awareness, it's beyond therapy. It's around awareness moment to moment. It doesn't rule out therapy, but I think it's more than therapy. It's about awareness. And in the awareness of the moment, I can see, oh, that came from my childhood. I don't have to just respond immediately. I can take a moment to pause and find a different response. Okay, I'm looking at the time. I think it is time. So Claire, thank you for asking me back again. And for those that have come, thank you for your attendance. And yeah, enjoy the self-inquiry that is your life.
As ever, wonderful having you here, Robin. And I'm looking out the window, the sun's shining, and it's just an invitation to reflect and consider, but also the connection here, like-minded people. So I appreciate that you've brought us together again with volunteering for us.
Mm-hmm. So, as they say in Italy, ciao.
Ciao. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
It was a great session. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.